Next, let's look at the design of different components of a dashboard, including the spreadsheet model, and also other components like charts, single value components, text components, and so on. Okay, spreadsheet models, they are part of a dashboard actually because in a lot of cases a spreadsheet is used to provide the data that is needed for the dashboard. Okay, so how do we design our spreadsheet model? And basically we'll use Excel functionality to design our spreadsheet model. Okay, Excel is very comprehensive spreadsheet program. It has all kinds of functions, formulas that we can create to build our model. So you want to do everything you can in Excel. And there are also some simple guidelines that we should follow when we create a model in Excel that you can read about in this slide here. Okay, they are pretty straightforward. Then for the other components of a dashboard, starting with charts. Okay, we can create all kinds of charts used in business settings, including line charts, pie charts, bar charts, and so on. Okay, and I'm sure most of you probably have used a lot, if not all the different types of charts shown here. But again, make sure you understand the purpose of each type of charts. For instance, a bar chart is illustrated here, and when we are designing a bar chart in a dashboard, the step-by-step procedure is shown on this slide here. Okay, first you just drag the chart component to the canvas. You adjust the titles if necessary, and then you bind the data, adjust scaling, and adjust layout. Okay, and we'll see how to bind data on the next slide. Data binding is pretty straightforward. Okay, basically you need to tell the program where do your data come from to be presented in a bar chart, for instance. Okay, it's kind of like Excel. Before you can create a chart, you need to highlight the data range which contains your data. And similarly here, we can use a range if the cells that contain our data are grouped together, and if they are separated, then we'll use data series. Okay, again, kind of like in Excel, how you will create a chart. Another component is known as single value components. Okay, there are actually a variety of single value components that we can use, and they are used for providing user interactivity to visualizations or to our charts of data. Okay, all the components are linked to a single cell. Okay, so that's why the name single value components. They are linked to a particular cell in the spreadsheet, and there are actually two types of components. Okay, one is for output and the other is for input. If it's an output component, that means that the cell contains a formula which is used to produce some kind of output. Okay, so we cannot modify the data ourselves as a user. Okay. On the other hand, an input component allows user input. So the cell has a value, and the user can change the value in the cell, and the component will change accordingly. Okay, when in fact only a dashboard, the user will not access the spreadsheet directly. Okay, so the user will manipulate the input data through the single value component. Okay, so if it is defined as an input component, then the user can manipulate the component graphically and to see the resulting changes. On the next slide is a good example. Okay, now we have a component which is a gauge, that can be defined as either an input component or an output component. Okay. If it's an input component, that means it can be manipulated by the user to provide different values for the input. Okay, so if profit margin can be manipulated, okay, we can play a little what-if analysis. For instance, if we want to have higher profit margin, we just turn the dial on the gauge to the right, and then we'll see how that will affect other data on the dashboard. Okay, so the user can turn the profit margin up or down if it is defined as an input component. Okay. On the other hand, if profit margin is defined as an output component, then it cannot be changed by the user. Okay, it will only show the current profit margin based on the financial model. Okay. All right. The next component is text components. Okay, and as shown here, there are actually three types of text components that we can use to provide input data, for instance. Okay, one is input text area, which allows multiple lines of input, so it's kind of like a text box. Okay, whereas the last one, input text, only provides space for one line of text, and finally a label is used for titles, description, and so on. It's not used for user input.